Welcome to the Shikama Live Show with your host, Shikama. Please go ahead and thumbs up the video. I cannot get back to where I was after such a long period off because I don't have fans. So anybody who happens upon me right now trying to get back into YouTubing would need to thumb up the video because the algorithm is not going to recognize he is having 100,000 subs. So there seems to be a problem in dating. Let's talk about it. Black guy has a goal of starting a business. He sacrifices many pleasures in life and then achieves his goal. He gets married to an Asian woman. While working on his goal, he becomes rich. He's throwing around millions of dollars in his business. Some black women happen upon him and his wife and insult them. That's not enough. They then go online and say, see, as soon as brothers, that's the word for black men, get a little money, they run off to someone else, meaning not a black woman. Even in doing research for this story, Google insisted on pushing, although I said black men, black women, they just kept pushing black women, black women, black women. Because Google is, as you know, what's the word? Woke. So I had to completely erase the word woman out of any of my searches and just say black men. But in the search results for researching this, all I got was black women saying black men are running off with other women once they get rich and posting all sorts of pictures of black men with other women. Well, I'm going to explain to you all of this because it's a web. It's not just a on-off switch. It's a lot of things. This story is repeated thousands of times. But let's back up. His wife, this Asian woman, was with him the whole time. Let's back up even further. When he first started dating, went on 50 dates and 50 black women told him, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not sacrificing. You can do that on your own. Call me later. Something's changed. It wasn't always this way. I'm here to tell you. There's another little fact. It's not a black woman thing, and it hasn't always been this way. This story is only about 50 years old. For all of you in the audience who are over 50, you can probably vouch for it, right? What happened 50 years ago that made women choose no? And why isn't it all women? Because it's not all women. It's just the Western women. Something happened 50 years ago to make women go from long suffering to reap the rewards all the way up to only wanting to reap the rewards and even getting rich from divorce. Divorce has turned out to be the biggest transfer of wealth in America. If this were anything else, it would be called theft. But for some reason, when it comes to women, it's not. Congress would be investigating this if it was anything else. If there was a mass theft, there would be televised congressional hearings. But not divorce, not women. What is it about women? I already know the answer. But what do you think the answer is? Now you say, what does this have to do with the guy being insulted by black women? The two things coincide. Women choosing rewards and women choosing divorce for wealth. You would think that that's the end of the story. I mean, you can't do anything to change women, right? Well, there's another option. Don't date Western women. Women are slowly waking up to the fact that they're not getting dates. Oh, you think they're quote unquote dating? No. What you're thinking about is not called dating. That's called the oldest profession in the book. It's been around for centuries. women want actual dates. And here's what's really funny. They did a survey and found that women are saying, oh, men are no longer approaching us. And then they had a trend of many young men approaching women and saying, hi, how are you doing? I just wanted to say you're beautiful. What's your name? Can I get your number? And if the woman doesn't show any interest or give some other excuse, the young man walks away. So there are thousands of videos of instances of men walking away after approaching the women. They said the women are complaining, why don't men approach us? But there's your example. It's trending on TikTok, proving they don't want men to approach them. Are they lying? It has to be. And don't say they want to be approached by somebody good looking. The young men are good looking. So that's not it. Whatever it is, whatever is in their brain, it has nothing to do with something logical. Like you would say, okay, so they only want to be approached by a good looking man. Okay, here's your example. Thousands of good looking young men, 6 foot something, approaching women in public, on the beach, on the sidewalk, in cafes. No. Thousands and thousands of video clips. So what is it? I have a psychology degree, among other things, and I'm here to tell you what it is. Women today are Disney adults. It's not just, I want to be treated like a princess. They have in their brain, in their complete imagination, in their subconscious, their own idea of what their ideal man looks like, talks like, how tall he is, how he's built, everything, how rich he is, everything. So it's not just he has to be good looking. It is something completely unrealistic. Have you ever gone to a movie, watched the movie, and you thought it was okay, and then you talked to somebody who read the book, and the people say, oh, well, the book was much better. Then you get into the psychology of the book was better, and then you realize the explanation from a psychologist is that the reader had a picture in their brain of what everybody looked like, how they acted, how they talked, how they sounded. Imagine that on a scale of reality, that you have women, millions of women, having an idea already formulated in their brain. And of course, this particular man that they've imagined wants them. And as they get older, they don't come to the realization that that man doesn't want them. They are still hoping that they're going to find that man to begin with. Have you seen the video clip of the guy interviewing the very obese woman? And he says, what turns you off in a guy? And she says, when the guy is not in shape. It boggles the mind to even try to comprehend how this woman said this thing. It doesn't make sense because she has in her brain, in her imagination, what her ideal man is and that he wants her. Men have no such compunction. A man sees himself in the mirror and he either accepts it or he doesn't and tries to change it. And the psychological impact of both of those decisions are based in reality. He either accepts that, hey, I'm fat. I'm going to stay in my lane and I'm going to go for this type of chick. But the problem is there is no chick that's on his level that wants him. Why? Because she doesn't look in the mirror and doesn't accept what she sees and imagines herself as something else. So women are not getting dates. Women want dates. That's not what they're getting. They're getting something else. They're not getting dates Gen Z, who are now 25 years old, have no problem ignoring women. None at all. Or choosing someone online overseas. They're 25, they can travel. What's worse is women trying this go overseas and run into, number one, men don't pay for them. That's an American thing from the 1800s. And men, sadly, haven't really changed, but the rest of the world has. So when they go overseas, they don't get that. You better bring your money. Not only you better bring your money, but they will throw you in jail. They were like, why would you come into my restaurant and not pay for the food? She can't say, I thought he was going to pay, because that is not an accepted tradition in that country. Number two, men don't pay for them like all the other stuff. You have women asking for their bills to be paid, their expenses to be paid, car note, gasoline of a car that they drive by themselves at home. Also, the women overseas are taller, so we got a malnourished woman who is short and obese, and she sees taller, good-looking women, number three, who are super feminine. And number four, the men don't tolerate their mouth. That right there is a super key. Not only do they not tolerate their mouth, they can get in trouble. It's legal trouble, criminal trouble for their mouth. But the men who go overseas are making out like bandits. They're retiring at 30, wife, kids, living the life. Now, it's not guaranteed, but the man at the beginning of the story lived in the United States, married the woman in the United States, and lived happily ever after in the United States. That is not typical. Just being inside the country corrupts the woman. Why? Because the other women tell her, oh, you're doing it wrong. You need to treat your husband that you married like this. They're not married, but they're going to give her advice. And unfortunately, a lot of them follow the advice of the unmarried women who typically don't want to get married. His woman stuck with him. She's feminine and joined in on his goals to start a business. Now they're happier than pigs in mud. I don't curse. That's not always the case. Living in America a lot of times corrupts the woman. This is the reason for actual quote-unquote passport bros, which was a black movement, started out as a black movement. They've since changed it to a different word. I can't think of the word, so I'm sorry. I apologize. You can comment and leave me the word below. But it was passport bros, and it was started not as passport bros, but it was started as something else. But passport bros is very catchy, and so then everybody started using the word passport bros, but it was supposed to be a black thing. Well, it started out as a black thing, and it was supposed to be a black thing. Why? Because black men have the actual worst mate counterpart within the racial group. The percentage of women in the other groups coincide with their same racial mates, right? The Asian woman typically likes the Asian male. The Native American woman typically likes the Native American male. The white woman typically likes the white man. The black woman, for whatever reason, and you can just go through all of the numbers, for whatever reason, does not like black men. Now, there's plenty of black women who say, oh, I love me some black men, blah, blah, blah. But it is so prevalent that they do not like black men that the stereotype of, I'm a strong, independent, black woman, that you have other racial groups copying that saying. It is so prevalent. And that's what black men have to deal with. So the passport bros were started by black men to get away from the strong, independent black woman. We have it rough. We have it tough. Yes, we have it the worst. Latina women love them some Latina men. They also like some black men too, but that's a different story. Let me give you the key features of the passport bros on paper. The bro has money. More often than not, he is educated, which is a complete turnoff for black women. Did you know that? They call him square. They call him lame. A black woman doesn't want an educated black man. Here's a double whammy. When he's not educated, then comes the other insult. There's more black men in prison than they are all in college, which is a lie, first of all, verifiable. So they got black men coming and going on the insults, on the education. It is so prevalent, and because there's 70% of black children born to a single mother who says stuff like this to their children, that hatred is internalized. So you got black men running around saying being educated is lame and square, which is kind of crazy since square is like from the 1920s. Also, passport bros are seeking to get married. Passport bros get married. Passport bros have kids with their wife that they married overseas. And the passport bros live in that country. It is advisable from passport bro advisors, and there's such a thing, for them to live in that country. Do not bring her to the United States. It is a lifelong commitment. Like I said at the beginning of the story, that the man lucked out. He married an Asian woman in the United States, and they're still together. And he's rich and she's rich, and they're happy together, and they're tickle pink. Why do I point out the passport bros and make sure I define it? Because there's another thing confused with passport bros: sex tourism. This is enjoyed by everyone, men and women. They go overseas and they have sex with the people in that country. And there are certain countries that are deemed the best country to go for this. The women, however, are there for love. If they could do it properly, this would be their passport bro scheme. They prey on broke natives, promise them everything, and then supposedly they try and bring them back to their country to get married and all that sort of stuff. But these men see them coming from a mile away. Some are already married and have children, have a whole family, but they hang out in the tourism area in their country, and that's what they do. And they accept the money that the women give them. That tourism is so bad, some countries have actually banned it. Banned certain countries from even flying there. Now you would think, oh, why would they do that? They need the money, don't they? No, that's not what's going on. They're giving money to that particular guy, that man, and then taking that man and then going back to their country. The problem was that there were thousands of men doing this or being preyed upon in their country. I know most people say, women don't prey upon men. Men can't be prey. Yes, they can. Imagine if you were actually poor, and I mean actually poor, not American poor, but actually poor. I've lived overseas. I've seen actual poverty. And a old, obese white woman came up to you and said, here is $10. And $10 is like $10,000 to you in the United States. Here is $10. I will give you $100 if you come back home with me. Imagine being offered $100,000 if you were to go back to England with this woman. Imagine being so poor you can't eat, and there's no food pantry, there's no food stamps, and this person comes up to you and says, here's $100,000. Come back to my country with me. 99% of the population would do it. The problem in those countries is that it was so bad and so prevalent, they were depopulating the country of men. A poor nation has a very large resource called human resources. The actual human himself is the resource. He's the one that's building the roads, constructing the houses and the buildings, building the boats, building the fishing boats, weaving the nets, the fishing nets. It's called human resources. This is what the word actually means. Imagine then you are the governor of the country and you are seeing year after year thousands of young men being siphoned off out of the country, never to be seen again. So they started banning those countries and those people in particular. British people cannot come to our country. The human resources took a toll on a lot of those countries. Young, native guys, no cars, walk around, run around, healthy, right? And because of tourism, they eat nicely. Now, many women have tried the passport bro things and failed miserably. The problem is they try to do the passport bro thing, which is find a man, talk about marriage, get married, have children. No. So a woman cannot do that. She has one thing to offer a man when he either accepts it or not. And it just ends up turning into sex tourism. Or worse, it turns into jail. More often than not, it turns into jail. Because if you look at the stats, the women in the United States are obese. A majority. An overwhelming majority. There is a change that's coming. At least in politics. In the private sector too. They are canceling the DEI stuff, which primarily targeted women, right? We're going to hire DEI. We're going to hire a diverse group. What they were talking about is women. 90% of the time, that's what it meant. They weren't hiring black men. Black men are lumped in with white men, as far as that's concerned, which is crazy, and it comes out to being racist because they say things against black men, adopting everything that they say against white men. So what they say against white men, when it's applied to a black man, comes off as something completely different, right? You can insult a white man all day long, and it doesn't really sting. But then when you say the same exact thing about a black man, it really sounds horrible on your part. I know this because I have been living with this all my life. I am not a DEI hire. I have never been accepted into any school based on affirmative action. I've never had that. I was always in the top 5% or 1% of whatever, the best or the best in the entire workforce, school, whatever. So I never got that treatment of, here's a handout. I don't know if I'm complaining or I don't know if I'm jealous, but this has been my life. I never had that benefit. And it's annoying when people say, all these black men are getting handouts. First of all, that's not true. If we want to talk about black, it's going to be black women. It's not black men. Black men are lumped in with white men. Why? Because they're men, or we're men. When you get to the real dating problem and why the black women attack the man with his Asian wife, you get down into the nitty gritty of what's going on in the dating scene. And they came up with a little bit of a survey and found that Asian men and black women are at the bottom of the barrel in attractiveness, according to everybody else. Everybody. That's even according to black men and Asian women. So what was the point that they concluded? Interestingly, quote unquote, implicit bias testing show that non-Asians have a significant delay identifying Asian men as men, and non-blacks have a significant delay identifying black women as female. Straight people are not attracted to the same sex. So if they cannot identify the person as actually being the opposite sex, they have no interest in them. This is probably true overseas when the black women go overseas, why they're having such problems. They're thrown in jail because they show up and they said this person did this, that, and the other. They do not identify them as women. They think they're men, or worse, they think they're one of those people. So they treat them like men. All right, you're off to jail. And if they say we're women, that just makes it worse. They have many laws on the books that says a woman cannot do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and F, right? So identifying themselves as a woman does not save them. Also, when they looked at the stats, 53% of black women are obese, not overweight, obese. They are so out of shape that there is no attractiveness to them for straight men, according to straight men. I know that there are other women who are saying, oh, you're gorgeous. You are not gorgeous. To straight men, you're not gorgeous. It's just a fact. All right. Hopefully, this has enlightened some people. A lot of people in the United States right now are offended by the male point of view. They call it toxic or something like that. No, that is the male point of view. You have heard the female point of view so much that when you hear the reality of what men actually like, what men actually want, it is couched as being toxic. This is so terrible. No, that is the male point of view. This is the reality of the situation. And women are steady making videos talking about why aren't men at dating meetings? Why aren't men at brunches on a Tuesday? We're out working. Do you know we work? Why aren't men approaching us? I just told you, thousands of young, good-looking men have gone up to women and said, hi, beautiful, how are you doing? You're so gorgeous. I like your hair, I like your eyes. Can I get your number? And they say, ew, get away. They say, ew, get away. I used to be a runway model. So I'm tall, good looking, and I was surrounded by tall, good looking women. And when I tell you these 3s and 4s are saying ew to somebody is crazy. I don't even know how to approach that. They are so, delusional. They have constructed this idea of how beautiful they are based on, there's another person online who makes videos like this, that the truly beautiful women tell the unattractive women how gorgeous they are to keep them in their place. So they are comparing themselves to 10s when they're a 3 or a 4. And they think that they can get anybody if they just blink at them. So when these attractive tall, young men, well-built, well-spoken, come up to them and say, hey, can I get your number? They say, ew, get away. That's crazy. Also, 60% of women are taking some sort of psychological medication. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to thumbs up the video. I wanted to create evergreen content. This is not my normal content. I talk about it online. If you're ever in contact with me online, I'm all over the internet. And it's so annoying that you have unattractive people trying to put on airs that they are so attractive that unattractive people should not approach them at all. Or they have plastered on so much makeup and put on filters on their camera to make themselves look attractive, but you can tell they're not. Especially for somebody who does 3D graphics and graphic design for all of these videos that I do. It is just, first of all, it's annoying. And I just want to literally just call them peasants. I'm like, what are you doing? Thank y'all for watching.